Hello, friends, and welcome to the next episode of Booked. I keep saying next like it's going to happen later. It's here. It's now. Welcome to this episode of Booked. Fucking hell, this is a really good start. I'm your host, Saffron Asteria, and today's guest is Adam Bassett. How are you doing today?
I'm here. I'm now. Let's go.
I love that. Oh, hi, everybody that's in the chat. Hope you're all well and stuff. So everyone who has been here before will know that if you want to ask questions, just pop them in the chat. I'll keep an eye on it when I can. Sometimes I get distracted. So yeah, we are here to talk about lots of different things that you have going on. Before we do, could you give the audience a little overview of sort of what you do, what you've done, who are you, what's going on?
Oh man, what isn't going on? To anyone who is watching who is also publishing, I'm just gonna say, don't run a Kickstarter and ARCs publishing 2 books all at the same time. Like, that's just a bad, especially when they're not related at all. Like, I can't talk about them as part of a series or part of like a kind of linked world or anything. Like, no, one is nonfiction, one is my first fantasy book. So it's like, just don't do that. It's dumb. I made a mistake, but I'm having a great time.
Good.
What was the question? What's going on? Who am I? Is that
what are you doing? What are you up to?
Right. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So, we'll talk, I think, in more detail about the books in a moment, but, hi, my name's Adam, for anyone who is just popping in just to see a random author or something. I am currently based in Vermont, and I'm by day, I'm a UX UI designer. I tell developers where to place buttons on the mobile application and all that kind of stuff. And on the side, I'm doing 2 things. I'm doing map illustrations. So if somebody needs a map for their book, you can come to me and I will help you design and illustrate it. And the other thing is, the reason I'm here today is because of my books. I am a author of science fiction and now fantasy, and also nonfiction. Whoops. But it's nonfiction about science fiction and fantasy.
Yes, is that definitely in the same ballpark?
Yeah. So it's been a wild, I've been writing probably, it must have been since I was like 10 or 11 or something. Okay. I really fell in love with it early. And later on, I knew I wanted to publish something. I eventually did. I published a book in 2014, I think it was, or something. But I kind of burned myself out because I didn't really know what I was getting into, and I was working with a hybrid publisher who was only helpful when you paid them. It wasn't quite vanity publishing. It was kind of like a step above that. Okay. And I'm still glad I did it because I learned a lot from it. But it definitely was like one of those experiences I was not necessarily looking to repeat. At least like, maybe there's a world in which the right project comes along where it all makes sense to do that again. But I haven't had that happen yet. And yeah, really in the last, it's been maybe 2 years now, I've really kind of like switched up my focus. I felt kind of lost for a little while because I like wasn't sure what my goal was, what the project I wanted to do was. I did find a project I was really excited about, but I kept running into walls with it and just kind of like very slowly working through it, rewriting it, all that kind of stuff. It felt very much like, and I don't know if everybody's had this experience, but like that one story you have in like high school where you're like, this is it. This is my magnum opus. I will never write anything better than this. But really, you need to stop. and do something else for a while.
Yes.
And that's kind of the realization I had was I had a moment where I went to Dragonsteel as part of a work thing, and I met so many awesome people there, and I just had a blast with the whole event. And I was like, I really want to come back to this. I want to bring my own work to an event like this. And over the past 2 years since then, I really just kind of switched up my focus, found projects that I felt more comfortable with writing. And a year ago, I published Digital Extremities, which was my kind of like second debut as another short story collection. But this time, like I've kind of rethought, you know, what does a slice of life kind of cyberpunk story look like? Sort of spread out in different places across the world, covering different things. And then while I was writing that, and kind of toward the end of that, I did something else in the same world, but kind of a cyberpunk thriller with Animus Paradox. And that came out at the very beginning of this year. And across, like during the course of this year, I was working on finishing my nonfiction book all about map design and world building, which is really geared toward other authors. And I also got extremely sidetracked, very inspired by this music I was listening to at the time, and just completely ignored all my other plans and ended up writing Copperskin Oaken Lungs, which is my upcoming fantasy book. Which I've just been having so much fun this year with all my writing. Like it feels like everything has really come together for me. And I'm still working on the, you know, building an audience and the marketing and all that kind of stuff. But like, I don't like that's okay to build slowly. Like I don't need to have some viral thing pop off like that. That's a way to attract a lot of people who aren't actually interested in your work. So I've been really happy with, you know, my steady growth this year, both as like somebody who was putting my work out there, but also just like there are things coming that I'm very excited to share with all of you.
Yes, I can't wait to dive into them a bit further. But I mean, something that I've seen from, I think the first contact we had was when I created an author feature for you. And then we didn't really cross paths very much. It was just kind of like, oh, this person's liked this thing or shared this thing or whatever. But something that I've seen from you is that you have very, very consistent marketing for your work. Like I am almost always seeing something from you. And so like it seems like you're really busy. And then when you talk to you are actually in fact very busy. So it actually really reflects what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I will definitely ignore social media for a time. I prefer when I'm ignoring social media.
Me too.
But you know, right now the situation being what it is, where I have multiple projects that are at points where I need to talk about them. And at this point, it doesn't make any sense to do paid marketing because my backlog is not big enough. I am not well known enough. Like none of the things that would like help to boost that, help to make that make sense none of that is there. And so the only way that I can reach new people is by posting consistently and playing to the algorithm a little bit. So yeah, right now I'm all over the place. You know, around the holidays and after these books release, I'm not gonna like. No, I'm gonna be busy writing. I have other stuff I'm working on.
You should definitely give yourself like a creativity break, but the break is having the creativity where you get to actually exercise that rather than doing all this organizing and polishing things off and trying to get people to see your stuff. Because as you say, the two things that you have coming out are so vastly different, but they aren't unrelated. Like I can kind of see, like after reading Copperskin Oaken Lungs and then reading through the text of I'm going to say the whole name. I had to write it down because I've got a terrible memory. An Author's Guide to Setting Design, World Building and Cartography.
Yes.
I can see where your brain was at, where you were succeeding when you were considering like all the elements of this world in your fantasy book. I could see where you were actually taking points of your own guide to put into this thing to make it make sense. And it made it this really cohesive thing. And both are very, very cool in their own different ways. But let's start off with talking about Copperskin Oaken Lungs. So this was your first fantasy book. what made you go to a different genre? Was it desire to do something different, or did the story just come to you and you're like, I guess we're doing this now?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a part of it.
Mhm.
I kind of get bored if I'm doing the same thing for too long. That's in my career, and it's in my writing, and it's like that's just part of who I am.
Mhm.
You know, I definitely, if the community really latches onto something, I'm happy to give them more of that thing, but I'm going to
Mhm.
end up doing it my way, where it's like, it's not a direct sequel, it's a different event in that world, or it's
Mhm.
like, you know, 10 years after the events of that story, we're going to do a different standalone. Like,
Yeah.
that's just the way that I prefer to work personally. And like,
Mhm.
obviously, if a story requires it, I'm not going to like artificially make it too short, or, you know, mess with the format. Like, if something needs to be a duology, needs to be a trilogy, I will
Mhm.
write that.
Yeah.
I just haven't had that happen yet.
Mhm.
But yeah, so it definitely, part of it is the change. Part of it is just sort of the vibes of what inspired Copperskin Oaken Lungs.
Mhm.
That story was originally inspired by listening almost just on repeat to a Latvian ethno-pop group, Tautu Metas.
Of course it was.
I'm a big
I was
fan of
gonna guess that.
anyone who knows it will know immediately. Like, I'm a big fan of Eurovision, which
Are
is,
you?
yeah,
Oh.
it's been a recent development over the past couple of years, but
Mhm.
yeah, I've fallen head over heels for it. And Tautu Metas represented Latvia this year,
Mhm.
and their song Burman Laimi is, it's like an earworm. It just grew on me
Mhm.
so rapidly, and I looked at the translated lyrics because I wanted to like understand it a little bit better,
Mhm.
and those became an earworm in itself, like,
Mhm.
where the lyrics just kind of like stuck in my head and I couldn't get them out. And you know, it developed into its own thing.
Hmm.
The story became like this post-apocalyptic like fantasy where, you know, the whole like wholly different themes
Mhm.
apart from the song, but the song is very, and the vibe of the group in general, I think, is very like, um forest nymphy. like
Okay.
that's the vibe that I get. And
Mhm.
it feels very much like a fantasy story,
Yeah.
and that kind of stayed with me as I was sort of reimagining the lyrics and the story that I thought might be somewhere in there.
Mm.
And even as it became sort of my own thing, I always wanted to like sort of pay homage to where the original ideas came from for
Mhm.
me. And so there's a lot of like, you know, one of the lyrics from the song is talking about copper and oak bridges.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of where the name came from. And a couple of scenes even talk about like, you know, having to cross certain bridges. And
Mhm.
you know, there's a whole dinner scene, and I just spent a whole bunch of time just like looking at Latvian dinner recipes and stuff.
Oh,
um
that tracks.
yeah,
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
so like, yeah, that's kind of a lot of different things contributed to it being fantasy.
Mhm.
um and if I'm being totally honest, a part of it is a marketing component as well. Like,
Okay.
you know, I think I've enjoyed science fiction cyberpunk stuff a lot, but
Mhm.
the audience for that is a lot smaller than the fantasy audience, and
Mhm.
being able to tap into that is really exciting for me as well. So like, I mean, there's a lot of creative reasons, but also there is this business reason. And I think when you're doing independent author stuff, you do have to consider both.
Oh, 100%. I mean, especially if your goal is for you to develop solid readership and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, people that are following what you're doing, so that when you're doing the next thing, that you've already got like a ready-made group of people that are like, okay, well, I'll hear you out because I know what you do. So even if it's something different, they're like, okay, I'm interested.
Yeah, and that was really like a big fear for me, was like, I have this audience built up from my sci-fi stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to be interested at all in my fantasy stuff? And I
Mm-hmm.
was kind of expecting there to be like some fall off on my newsletter as I began talking more and more about things that were not Digital Extremities and Animus Paradox stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that has not happened, which I'm like very, very pleased with. I don't know if they just are ignoring my messages.
I mean,
that's also possible. But yeah, I mean, I recently talked about how I just hit like 100 people following me on my newsletter, which
that's
for
really
only
good.
having it for about a year and not like marketing it super hard, I'm very happy with that.
No, that's really good. I mean, triple digits is something to celebrate, and especially with things like newsletters, because people get enough stuff in their inboxes that people will be unsubscribing left, right, and center.
I will be the first person to unsubscribe. I totally understand. I try to be very careful with, like, if I'm gonna send something, it has to be of value. Like, it has to be there's going to be a sale in it, or there's going to be some big cover reveal, or ARC info, or like something that is worth sharing. Otherwise, I will not send anything that month.
Do you know what? There's something to be said about that, because for Idiosyncrasy, I had like a weekly newsletter, and that was like exciting because I actually had stuff to say. And then it just became like an update of like, well, if you're not on social media, these are things you missed. And then I went through a huge period of time not doing anything because I was busy squirreling away in the background, just doing things. And I was like, I'm going to start doing it weekly again. And after 3 weeks, I had people unsubscribe, and I thought, I can't keep doing this because it hurts my feelings. Because unfortunately, you can see who's unsubscribed, because I'm like, okay, well, I guess you hate me now. I take it really personally, which is a bit sad, but there you go. Hello to everyone that's joined. I hope you're doing well and stuff. If I'm going to put the QR code up for Adam's website for now, in case you've joined late, if you're interested in all the things that Adam does, you should go and check that out because it's all very cool. So Copper Skin, Oaken Lungs. So you've got the ARCs available until tomorrow.
Yes. Okay. You can sign up for the ARC. You can go to the website actually, and if you go to the books section, there's a link to sign up for the ARC for Copper Skin, Oaken Lungs.
Cool.
The book is about 270 pages, and a bunch of that is like front matter, just defining world building terms and stuff. So you can just skip that, and it's really like 250 pages. Yeah, so I mean that's going to be closing after tomorrow.
Okay.
And if you aren't interested in, and I should say the ARCs are for ebook or audio. You can sign up for either one. So if you don't have space for ebooks right now, or if you just prefer audio, you can choose that one. The audiobook is currently being worked on, and I'm hoping it'll be ready before the end of the year, or like very early next year. And so that'll be coming. And then if you miss it, or if you aren't interested in ARCs, then I'm going to have the pre-order stuff all set up very soon. There's already a pre-order for the paperback version, which if you get it from the Crafty Bookstore, which they only deliver to the US right now just because of like shipping and licensing stuff. Yeah. So if you're in the US, you can get it from them, and they have some like copper and black sprayed edges, which are really cool. I'm very excited to see it.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
Yeah.
I did put the link that you sent for like direct to the book in the chat if anybody wants to click on it, if you don't like using QR codes. Keith would like to know, who did you use for the audiobook?
I went directly to Veronica Rotar. She is working on it right now.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't know offhand what other stuff she's done, but she's been in a lot of different things. Like, she's done work for other audiobooks, she's done work on like video games, and a bunch of different things.
Nice. Awesome. Is she somebody that you worked with before, or is it like
No,
you just selected? Okay, cool.
It was basically I was expressing to a audiobook narrator that I knew. I wasn't sure if I was ever going to get an audiobook for this because the book is like so inspired by Latvian, like from the song, and like there's a bunch of Latvian names and words and stuff. I really wanted to continue like in audio to pay homage to that and like have somebody who could pronounce all that. And I wasn't sure, like I had looked around a little bit and I couldn't find like anybody who really seemed like they would work. And I just happened to mention that to this other person. And I think it was like 5 minutes later, they were just like, oh yeah, here's a link to Veronica's website. It's like, oh yeah, okay. It's just like, sure. Yeah, she does. They're like, oh yeah, she does all these like Eastern European accents. I'm like,
oh, fab. Cool. Oh, that sounds good. Have you heard any samples for it yet? Or
I have, yeah. Cool. It's still very early. I've only heard one sample so far. I just got an email, so I was double checking to make sure if there was anything new. But there
Speak
was
of the devil.
No, I've only heard one sample and then like one follow up to that. I think I'm gonna get one more soon because we were still kind of like talking about some of the details, but one of the characters has this kind of like almost ghostly vocal effect going on, and I'm really happy with it.
Cool. That's very cool. I would be very interested to hear what that sounds like for sure.
The audiobook ARCs are on the website.
Yes, I'm gonna have to sign up for that. I've started getting into audiobooks recently because I read so much for this show.
Yep.
I probably read from like 9:30 in the evening to 1 a.m. every night to keep up with everything that I need to read because I'm a fucking idiot. It's my fault. I wouldn't do that normally. I've become some sort of freakish reader. I don't know who I am anymore. But audiobooks are fantastic if I'm like, I can't bear to read tonight. I know that I can put that on during the day while I'm doing stuff, and I'm at least consuming a story, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, audiobooks have saved my ass, honestly, like just in terms of having time to read. This is, I think, the year I've read the most total books. And it's 100% because I've been like, you know, when I go and work on a map for somebody or for myself, I put on an audiobook now.
Smart. It's also like sometimes I have to be in the mood for it.
Yeah, I understand that.
Because sometimes I'm really irritable and I'm like, please don't fucking talk to me. And an audiobook is like someone talking to me and it irritates me immensely.
I had a similar feeling very recently, whereas like I listened to audiobooks for quite a while, and then I went to the gym yesterday and I was like, I want to put an audiobook on. I feel like I should, but I'm just going to listen to music and put on like a history podcast instead because I just like, I need a different sound. But
yeah, I get that.
It doesn't happen too often, but it was just like, I had just listened to a whole bunch of one. It's like, I need something different.
You've got to mix it up sometimes. It's totally reasonable. Grant, this is a question that Grant likes to ask. Do the books include cats or wolves? We're going to include all of your books. Are there any cats or any wolves in any of your books?
So in Copperskin, Oaken Lungs, there is a cat on the cover. So there is a cat in that book. It was a throwaway line that I was not intending to include a cat in that book. And then the cat had other plans and became a main character.
Just like cats do.
It is an authentic cat.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the cat becomes fairly important. It's kind of in a weird gray area, but it'll make more sense if you read it.
Something that really surprised me about the story was for Copperskin, Oaken Lungs was it actually got very dark. I was like, oh, this is a very interesting setting, and I'm going to try really hard not to spoil anything because that would be awful of me. But like, it's an interesting setting, and I like the mechanics of it, and the characters are interesting. and then something really creepy happens, and I was like, oh, what the hell is that? So I want to know more about that, and I am curious. Oh, Grant said sounds like a plus. Cats are always a plus with Grant. Cats, cake, wolves, very much his thing. Do you plan on expanding this particular world, or was it a one-off story for you at this stage?
So the story was always meant to be a one-off.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I had that annoying little voice in the back of my head happen again, whereas like I cannot stop thinking about this. And that became, if people like this book,
Mm-hmm.
I have something that I could do that continues the world and the stories.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started just writing it. So
that was
sequel confirmed. It's number 1 in a series.
Uh-huh.
I will say the sequel is like it takes place 10 years after this, so it's very separated. You can go into Copperskin Oaken Lungs, and
Mm-hmm.
it can be a standalone thing for you if that's all you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
If you do enjoy it, there will be another coming later.
Great.
And if you want to skip it, you could probably just skip it and go to the second one when that's out, I guess. that's how I work. Like I'm very series averse right now, and I think that's part of why. Just because I don't have time.
Mm-hmm.
And I really value at the moment reading a wide variety of different authors' work and different genres, different takes on genres. And I want people to feel like they are getting a complete story when they pick up one of my books. Not that there's like this massive cliffhanger and you've got to go on to the next one, which like maybe is a bad idea marketing wise. Like that's maybe a dumb business decision. But there wasn't going to be a sequel in the first place, so that's a good business decision.
Yes, absolutely.
It kind of like equals out, I think.
Oh yeah. It's basically like nil.
Yeah, that's fine.
I am a great believer in if you write something that you truly enjoy writing, then it 100% comes across when you read it. And if you're forcing a series out of yourself just to like placate these imaginary readers that you haven't met yet, it's kind of pointless. And also you're just kind of like draining, a resource that isn't really there.
Yeah, if I'm going to spend like a year working on a book, I want to make sure I enjoy that year.
So you should. Before we move on to your nonfiction stuff, I just had a question about your method of publishing. So you already touched on the fact that you worked with a hybrid publisher. Did that seal the deal for you to self-publish, or was that like a separate decision?
I mean, nothing is ever separate, right?
Yeah.
Like the decisions that we make are informed by all the decisions we previously made and the experiences we had.
Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, I think the hybrid publishing experience did push me toward indie publishing. But I can't say that I wouldn't have ended up here at some point if like, so a big part of why I'm doing indie publishing right now is to build a backlog, because I want to show that I can write, that I can sell books, that I can build an audience. It's partly to prove it to myself a little bit, and also to be a part of this community, which I've really enjoyed. And also partly, like if I ever decide to go trad, I will have this backlog of things and be able to point to that and say, I can do the job.
Yeah.
A lot of trad news has been coming out lately with the way that publishers view previous books and the way that they get sold and how successful they were. And maybe this is also not going to work out in the way I hoped, because I don't have a huge, like we've talked about it. My audience isn't huge. I don't make a ton of sales, and like that's fine. It's growing every day, and the way that this community works, you tend to snowball at least a little bit. And I've been very happy with that. The trad thing is like it's an option on the table over here somewhere. It's like I'm building toward that possibility, but I'm not necessarily seeking it out, if that makes sense. It's like one of
definitely.
it's like one of those things where it's like, I don't think it makes sense for me right now because I want to be part of this community right now. I want to be publishing stuff right now and sharing my stories with people and learning how to publish and how to write and all that kind of stuff. Like I've learned so much just by like hiring editors and having them give me feedback on the story structure, on the formatting of things, and like I'm learning so much in this whole process. And being indie lets me write whatever I want to write. Like I don't have to sign a contract. I can switch things up at the last moment. That's literally why Copper Skin Oaken Lungs exists. Otherwise, like I had a month prior to deciding to write that, I had committed in my head to like a couple of other things that I was really excited about. And then that came along and just blew it all out of the water. And I like that flexibility a lot. So there's a lot of reasons behind it, and it's hard to point to any one. But definitely, like, you know, had that experience of being hybrid, you know, 8 years ago or however long it was, that definitely like helped inform some of the decisions that I made.
And that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, it seems like you're just setting yourself up for success and thinking like, okay, well, if I do ever want to go down this route, then at least I have this thing behind me. And
I like having options.
Yeah, well, and so you should, because, you know, self-publishing and indie publishing is really accessible. It's not always accessible for success, but it's really accessible, more so than it ever has been, because you can basically publish a book for free. Like, if you make all of the right decisions, you can do it for free. If you make all the correct decisions, it's going to probably cost you a lot of money. But it still makes it accessible. And you know, if your whole thing is wanting to share things with people the way that you want to present them, then it's the perfect method to do so. But yeah, I'm really interested to see what trajectory you take in the future, because I feel very strongly that your author's guide to setting design is going to be huge, because I can see so many people would need it and use it and love it. That was my little segue to talking about it. Did you like that? Look at me go. Almost professional, but not quite. So this particular nonfiction book has been funded through Kickstarter, but you are still looking for backers. I am going to put the link in the chat just in case anybody wants to check that out. And you can also see all the awesome stuff on there.
Yeah, we've got 13 days to go. And it's at the goal was $2,000, which helps cover like a lot of the artwork that's gone into it and the editing and all that kind of stuff. And we've already hit 2 stretch goals. We're at just over 3,000 right now.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's I'm very excited. And yeah, if 13 days to go, it's a good chance to back it. The rewards are the ebook and the print hardcover copy. If you get it through Kickstarter, I will ship it to you from wherever you are. There's international shipping on that. Cool. It's going to go straight from the printer though, so I won't have an opportunity to just like sign it or anything, but just signing it creates so many more shippings and expenses and all that kind of stuff. So you can also get Copper Skin Oaken Lungs through the Kickstarter as well. It's an add-on if you want to get it that way, as well as my other books. So if you, for whatever reason, feel like just reading a whole bunch of my stuff, you can do that.
Oh, that's great.
It'll contribute to the backer goal and like help us get more art in the book.
Which is fantastic, and it's a very good way of sort of getting everybody in one place. So for anyone that's joined us that missed any of the stuff that we talked about before, could you give a little overview, or even a big overview, however much information you want to give, as to what is this thing that you've created?
Yeah, so Like I mentioned earlier on, I do map illustrations for people, and for myself as well. I just grew up really enjoying maps in fiction books. I think they're so much fun. Even in like real life, I just like looking at maps. They're cool. So I've been doing that for a few years, off and on when I get time. And I started working on a couple of blogs for work, and those kind of all entailed different map design discussions. And I had so much fun writing them, and I kind of realized I could just kind of keep doing this. And so I incorporated pieces of those blogs into a manuscript, and then continuously like built on that manuscript. And it eventually became an author's guide to setting design, which is pretty much exactly what it says, is a book for other authors, or any world builder really, to basically just have this toolbox. And that's really the goal of it, is to be not so much instructive as like, here are a bunch of ideas for you to kind of just like play with, to help build your settings, to help write, or to help illustrate your maps if you're illustrating or planning any. It really started as like a map design book, but it kind of morphed into something a little more broad, where like, even if you're not doing any map stuff, like you could still use pieces of this for your like world building in prose, for example. Like, you know, if you have a castle beside a river, you might have through this book, you might have a little more information about how rivers work to make that a little more interesting, or a little more realistic, or something. So it's kind of a lot of things. It's got 3 sections, one on just kind of broad, like world building, which is like climate info and like how that can affect different cultures. It has info on geography and hydrology, and how those things could be expressed in a fictional place. Like, for example, I've brought in a lot of extra voices to sort of give other opinions, other points of view. One of those people, 2 of those people, I guess, Blake and Raven Penn, who are the authors of the Skystone Chronicles, they gave me some insight on kind of how their geography and hydrology in their world, in their stories, work with these magical ley lines, and how those like magical structures that are natural to that world affect the stones and affect like the wilderness of it, and creatures that live there. And so, like, you know, very quickly we go from a science textbook to a tangent on how magic works in this book or something. That's kind of the vibe. We also talk about the things that live in the world, from penguins and how they take different forms based on where they live, to the different cultures on Earth, and how you know, things like international borders have changed over time, from the very specific, very well-maintained borders that we have today, versus like 7th century Ireland. You would put up a stone, and that stone sometimes had information about who owned that part of the land, or something like that. And the final section is all about map design. So if you're interested in designing your own maps, or helping your, like, the maps that you commission, like giving your artist more information, that whole section is all about like, what type of map should you use? What, you know, how should you use text hierarchy to help draw the eye to certain places? Or like, what should your scale be? And like different things like that. So it's not a how to draw book. I feel like I should be very clear about that. You're not going to learn how to draw mountains or anything. You're going to learn more about like the projection methods that you might want to use, or the ways that you can incorporate illustrations into the borders of things to like help reinforce culture or something. So like a lot of the stuff kind of around the actual illustration.
Awesome. And I will say, I've had a sneak peek at this, and it's fucking amazing. It's really, really cool. If you watching this, I don't know if I'm staring at the camera here or here. I'm gonna look here because it looks like I'm judging whoever's watching this. I can't give eye contact. I'm gonna have to look away. If you are even remotely interested in world building, even if you're not a writer, it's still very interesting. If you run D&D campaigns, that might be interesting to you. If you read fantasy or anything that has an immense amount of world building, that is still incredibly interesting. And it's something that I appreciate. You had references. It's been quite a collaborative thing for you to do.
Yeah,
so you've gotten
there's I think like 40 or so different authors and artists who are involved in this. Some of them have just given me access to use a map for their book. Others have given me like quotes about their perspective on different parts of world building or map design. Some of them have done both. So it was one of those things where it was like, I realized there are gaps in my knowledge, or somebody else could talk about something better than I could. And I reached out to like one person and they agreed and they gave me some really good insight. And I was like, oh, what if I just kept doing this? I was able to, it took a while, but I was able to get some insight on how Isaac Stewart builds his maps. He's the person who makes all of the maps for Brandon Sanderson. So
immensely cool.
Yeah. So I unfortunately wasn't able to use any examples of his maps because they are all locked down on all kinds of like copyright and all the other kind of stuff.
With a wheel on it.
But he was able to stop and take some time to give me some feedback on a few things. He asks a bunch of really cool questions about, like, you know, don't just do the standard Tolkien-esque fantasy map. Stop and think for a moment about like what your map's relationship with your world is. And I think that's like those kinds of questions, those kinds of insights are so valuable.
Oh, for sure. And especially for those who hold importance to, I don't know, that was terrible English, but we're going with it, the realism within a fantasy world, because that is incredibly important to some people. I personally find too much going on or like too much detail really hard for me to pay attention to, but I do appreciate when something is polished and I don't have any questions like, why is that like that? Or that wouldn't work. Why have they done that or made that choice? And there are a lot of, I think I said, I don't remember if I said this before we started recording or during, oh well, I'm saying it again. You give a lot of why behind certain actions and choices that one would make if they were building a particular world for fictional use, which I love very much. I'm very much a why person. Like, why do I have to do this? Why is this important? And you give actual examples of real life and also where people have used it in their own fictional work, and that is incredibly helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's never one answer to anything, especially when it comes to something creative like drawing or writing or anything like that. So a big goal of mine was to have examples for things both in reality and in fiction, and in both examples try to have a variety of examples. Like, I don't want to just talk about a Game of Thrones for 100,000 words or Lord of the Rings or anything. Like, that's not fun. Like, let's bring in some of that. But let's also talk about what some indie authors' takes are. Let's talk about what some mid-list authors' takes are. Let's talk about examples from real life in the West and the East. Like, try and just provide a variety of things for people to latch on to help them understand, help them get inspired by these things. And at the end of the day, it's not, I mean, I know the title says a guide, but that's just for marketing, honestly. It's not really a guide. It's more like a reference book. It's like, here's a bunch of tools, go and use them, do something with them. And I'm excited to see what people do.
For sure. And it is absolutely a toolkit. It's something that you could pick up and open the section that you're interested in learning about, and that is a useful thing on its own. has it helped you in your writing to explore this and learn new things and put this whole thing together?
Yeah, absolutely. One of those projects I mentioned before that I had planned on doing, but then Copper Skin Oaken Lungs happened.
Yeah.
One of those was entirely inspired by this book about map design and world building, because I was researching Antarctica and the exploration of it, and everything we know about it, basically, which ended up being kind of a subsection of a chapter in this book. And I learned about Lake Vostok, which is a liquid lake underneath about 4 kilometers of ice. And it's just down there, and we don't totally know why it's liquid. There's a theory that it might be like geothermal or something that's keeping it warm enough. There also may or may not be some organic life form down there, which is only down there and has never been exposed to anything else. Also, that organic life form may or may not still be alive, because the group that discovered it did so with bad equipment and may have killed it. It's like when we're talking like microorganisms, we're talking like bacteria or something. But still, like, there's a lot of questions about this lake, and I really want to set a story in like an under ice facility at Lake Vostok, and I still plan to do it. I just haven't had time.
I think you should write that. That sounds really fun.
Yeah, no, I've got a draft kind of all planned out. It's still like I get little ideas for it every now and then, and it's changing still. But yeah, I'm pretty much ready to start writing it once I have time. But I'm currently working on the sequel to Copper Skin Oaken Lungs, because it's tied close enough to that story where I want to kind of get it out a little bit quickly. So
yeah,
currently working on that. We'll see where that goes, and then if there's no other surprises, the Lake Vostok story is going to be next.
I am excited about that. I think that will be really interesting. Before I ask the next question that I have, if anybody does have any questions for Adam, please put them in the chat and I'll keep an eye out for it. I know some people will listen to this passively, but the pressure's on. Now is the time to ask a question. So get your thumbs or whatever you used to tap screens. I did have a question and I wrote it down because my brain is spaghetti. Do you plan on writing any other reference books? Because it is an author's guide to setting design, world building, a cartography. It leads me to believe that you potentially have something else in the back of your mind that you would like to also do as a separate thing, or have I just totally made that up in my head?
You made it up.
Oh, okay. I mean, not that I think you need to do more, because you've already done so much, but the way that it's laid out, I was like, I wonder if this is going to be a series of things.
Yeah, no, I have no plans to do that. I won't say I never will. I kind of have in the back of my head, like, if we learn some new information about geography, some major events happen in the world, like, I have a big section on international borders, and if some new interesting thing happens with that, which it might, there is a section on some recent events. Not it's tricky to write about that stuff, but like I think it's important as well, because like these are things that are happening and they matter, and we can learn a lot from them, both for ourselves and for our fiction. And because like fiction it's a way to understand and talk about the things that are happening. I try to do so in a respectful and honest way as like much I can. There are a few that it's tricky to do. But all that being said, there's in the back of my mind, there's a situation in which like I might release a second edition. Like that is kind of on the table at the moment, where, if there is a reason to update things, I will do that. I don't currently have any like real plans to do that. I don't have any real plans to do any more of these. I really want to just like put everything in this, and then if something else comes up, I'll write a new one. I'll write a new edition. But I don't think I'm a map guy. I'm a world building guy. I don't know what, like, this is the map and world building book. I don't know what else I would have read about.
So that wasn't me trying to pressure you to just come up with something
no,
out
really,
of
like the way the title is structured is to just make clear what is in it.
Mm-hmm.
An author's guide to setting design is because it is both world building and cartography.
Yeah.
But if I just leave it at that, I don't think that's very clear. So
For
adding
sure.
that subtitle makes it really clear, like, what is inside this book.
Oh yeah, you know exactly what it is when you read the title. I was just being a bit nosy, to be honest.
No, it's fine.
That's my job. To be politely nosy. So how did you decide what was important in to include in this? So like, you've got 3 very distinct sections and you have a hell of a lot of information, all of it very useful for whatever the application will be. How did you go through the process of prioritizing it? Did you consult with the people that you collaborated with? Was it like, okay, so if I was going to read this, this is what I'd want from it?
A little bit of both. Okay. Mostly the second half of that. Mostly just what I thought after, reading for as long as I have and writing for as long as I have. And I used to it before this. I didn't mention before, but before all this happened, I was the editor-in-chief at Worldbuilding magazine, which is a free little... it was very fun. I did that for a couple of years after I had already been like volunteering, working on articles and editing and stuff for them. So like I've just kind of been in this space for a little bit, and the sections kind of came about just because those are the things that I was interested in talking about, basically. I will say a few things kind of came from other places. So the section on life was originally, I think, just like culture and international borders and artwork and different things like that, like people centric.
Yeah.
And it was actually a YouTube channel. I think it was Atlas Pro that I was watching at the time, which they went off on this whole deep dive into biogeography, which is the study of how different species move and adapt to different places in the world. So I mentioned penguins earlier. They're a really good example because in, for example, Antarctica, you have emperor penguins who have, for example, these really kind of like thick, I think, fatty feet, which prevent them from freezing when they're standing on ice all day. And they've adapted different, like they're very large penguins, so they have a higher internal temperature and it's harder for them to get too cold.
Yeah.
If you go a little bit further north to Australia and New Zealand, you get, I think they're called blue fairy penguins, which are much smaller. They don't need that size to stay as warm. They also have some camouflage for when they're swimming. Their stomachs, I think, are kind of like a light blue color, which if an animal is looking up from below, they just sort of see the sky. And then if you go further north across the equator to the Galapagos Islands, you have the Galapagos penguins, which have webbed feet, which helps them stay cool because they want to get rid of heat there. Which is, all of these things are just kind of really interesting ways in which species have evolved to different locations. You see the same thing with like Hawaii, where the original birds that arrived on the islands, some of them lost their ability to fly because they just didn't have to escape predators anymore. And they just like heavily went under these huge adaptations because of the place where they lived now and the new situation they had. So there's a whole section that I really wasn't planning on writing originally, which is all about the kind of flora and fauna of a place, and really goes into a little more depth on that biogeographical factor, and also how like they can become like how they can change if they're isolated as well, which is another example of like, all of those penguins and the birds in Hawaii and everything, they changed in large part because they were isolated from other members of their species. So, and then you go down the line of questioning of like, what if that's a dragon instead of a penguin? Like, how does a dragon adapt to a forest where it doesn't have room to open its wings and fly? It loses its wings. you know, different questions that you can kind of extrapolate from these situations for fantasy, sci-fi, all these things. So that was a fun, like, that's one of my favorite sections, just because it's the kind of thing I would not expect when I picked up this book.
For sure, yeah.
So that was a really fun one. And then also just like, there were some smaller subsections that appeared because I spoke with somebody about their book or something. So one of the biggest subsections that got added was because I spoke with P.L. Stewart about his series. And his books are kind of all like, I think the first one's called A Drowned Kingdom. And it's basically like his reimagination of the Atlantis myth for fantasy. And that led me down a whole line of like, well, how can we use myths and lost worlds in general in fantasy and sci-fi? And so I have a whole section on Atlantis now.
Well, going back to the creatures that you can have in your world, they are a fantastic indicator, even just if you were to describe the thing physically, of what the environment is like. So it kind of like lets off some of the pressure of describing every single scene and every grain of sand when you have examples of living things existing in that scape. So it's fascinating. I definitely think that, as I said earlier, because we've had people join since, as I said earlier, it would be a fantastic and is going to be a fantastic tool for writers. But again, if you're just curious about world building, still very interesting, because you also have references and you've got a lot of images in there.
There's over 120 maps and diagrams and all kinds of stuff like that. I personally made, I think, like 45-ish maps for this book.
That's cool.
Actually, it's probably higher than that, because a few of them I'm not including the ones that I previously made and then asked the person I made them for, hey, can I use this?
Oh my goodness.
So it's probably closer to 50.
That is such a skill to have. And you don't use AI for your map building. And I know some people do. That's a personal choice. I'm not going to start a fight about it. I personally think that the human-made stuff is really, really cool. And I feel like you can tell a difference. I really do. Like the consideration that you have in terms of, like, as you say, the scaling, or like, you know, is there a physical border of mountains, or, you know, a river, or whatever it is.
Or a magical border. Another author I spoke with, AJ Calvin, they have a like physical magical wall that divides a couple of countries, and they have a whole backstory for that. And they have a backstory for how, like, you can kind of get around it if you go a sneaky way, which is like, it's just a lot of fun ways you can take these in different directions with sci-fi and fantasy.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm going to ask you a couple of map building questions, if you don't mind. And again, if we've had people join, please do drop any questions in the chat. This is a weird time of the day for a show, so the chat's a little bit quiet, but I can see people.
That's all right.
I can see sneaky people in there. So in terms of your cartography map building, when you work with somebody, so let's say, for example, somebody's watching this and they're curious about what your process is or how they can commission artwork for maps from you, what does that process look like, and what kind of information do you try and get from that writer or whoever's commissioning you?
Yeah, so I think it varies a little bit depending on who I'm talking with. Everybody has different needs. Everybody's story is different. Again, that's something I talk about a lot in the book, is like, you know, none of this is a one size fits all. Like, you're going to have to adapt all these ideas and everything to your story. That being said, I think the place that I tend to start is like, tell me about your story. What are you looking for from the map? What kind of map are you looking for? Because I think I kind of mentioned this earlier, but a lot of people just say, like, I want a Tolkien map because that is the fantasy map. It's like, okay, I can do that, but you know, for example, I have made some maps for Robin Dabney, who is a author who has published she's got one book out. The sequel is coming very soon. It's kind of like a young adult mountaineering
cool.
Little bit of like, you know, defeat the establishment who hates women, and like all of that kind of stuff is happening all at the same time. I love the first book; it's very good.
Mhm.
Second one is coming out very soon, and when she asked me to do some updated maps for it, we just kind of like made a few small changes to the world map, and then she was like, "I also need a map of this mountain just close up." And she's like, "I just want this, like, I just want it to be closer so that people can like get a better look at it." And I was kind of like, "What is this for?" And she kind of explained the story to me, and she's like, the main character is going to climb this mountain, and that's going to be like a really big deal in the story. I'm like, okay. And I gave it some thought, and I was like, this is entirely your call. It's your map. But she in the past had let me kind of like do my own thing and have some fun with the maps, like based on the sketches she gave me and everything. And I was like, do you really want this kind of map? Because what you're describing to me based on the story, based on like, I just don't think like a second map that is zoomed in on the same thing is going to be that engaging. So what if we took inspiration from Mount Everest and did a trail map?
Oh.
And like, this is going to be a cool thing for you to share on like social media. It's going to be a different kind of thing that you can include in your book. And like, it's going to provide a different perspective to the landscape and everything. And almost immediately she was like, yeah, let's do it. And cool. we went and found some references, and yeah, I basically like styled this trail map based on trail maps of Mount Everest. And we were able to include a lot more detail in the map because of that. Like, we were able to include the path that the character goes on and the obstacles that are in her way, different like specifically named glaciers and stuff, and different stuff like that. You know, at some point I'd ask her for the exact elevation of the map, because of the peak, because that would be in the map. Like, they would know that and probably include it. And she was like, oh, let me get back to you.
Let me get my calculator out.
So yeah, the process is a little different for everybody.
Okay.
But those are some of the things that I ask first, is like, do you have a sketch? What's the story like? What kind of map are you looking for? And then like basic format questions of like, what size does this need to be? Like, is it going in a 5x8 book, or is it going in a 6x9, or like is it for a poster? Like, you know, there's different size requirements. I actually screwed up on my own map recently and had to redo it because I used the wrong size. I did it on like an idiot. I made it as a 8.5x11 page, and then I went and put it into my 5.25x8 inch book, and it fit very awkwardly. I was like, huh.
Oh, that's a bit depressing.
So it was fine. I was able to reuse pretty much everything, and I just added some like borders on the top and bottom. And that was fine.
Okay.
But it was very funny. It was like I'm taking all these steps to make everybody else's maps really nice, and meanwhile I'm just over here like, yeah, this is fine.
It's different when you do it for yourself.
It is.
I believe that.
It is. It absolutely is. I'm afraid to mess up on somebody else's. On mine, I'm like, I don't really want to put in work.
I feel that, dude. I really do. Grant asks, any city planning guides in mind?
City planning. I'm not a city planner, so no. That being said, I do talk about cities in the book a little bit.
Okay.
And some of the, especially like travel in and between cities. There's a bunch of like really interesting little anecdotes that I was able to find. So based on like what time period and how much technology that your people have in the story, you're going to want cities kind of at different distances apart.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So if you are like, everything is on horseback, you probably want your towns and cities about 10 miles apart, roughly. Because you can walk. I don't remember if it's 5 or 10 miles apart. I'd have to go back and look it up, but you can walk. It's one of those distances in one day. Yeah. And not everybody had access to horses. Now you can really see this in like Europe, where a lot of the original towns from like the Middle Ages and Renaissance and all these, you know, they're still there. Yes. And so everything is a lot more kind of like densely packed. and it's also like the roads are a lot more like spider webby.
Yeah.
Whereas like over in the US, when a lot of those places were being built, we already had access to trains or cars or something of that nature.
Yeah.
And so those places were built for that kind of travel. Or at least they very soon were rebuilt to be for that kind of travel. And so you have places that are a lot more spread further apart, and you have like city roads that are wider and more like you see a lot of more like gridiron plans, which was a thing in Europe at one time. That like the American planners who began using the gridiron plans that are all like, these are the very like, they're grids. They're very straight lines. Everything is parallel to one another and all that. That was used in places like Versailles, and that's where the Americans got the idea from. But it was like a very specific use case in Europe, and it was something that I think had phased out, and we just adopted it. So yeah, I mean, there's pieces of that as well. Like I'll also talk about like, how people choose the paths they travel. It's the path that's easiest, but sometimes that path might run through you can't build a road over a church, and bridges are very expensive, so you might have to like divert a little bit to get over this river. The different considerations like that when you are doing a city or town map, those all are things that kind of go into mind. I don't think I have enough material in me to write a whole book about that, but there are pieces of it for sure in this one.
Well, that's good. That's good. So Keith said that he's made a blueprint of a house to envision the action better. So that makes a lot of sense for fantasy. Oh, for sure. Like sometimes doing the thing, like living the thing, makes it so much easier to actually write about the thing. Like I, for a majority of my book that I'm working on at the moment, it is based around actual places where I lived. And so to get inspiration for that, I drove those routes so that I could actually map it out. Nice. And I got like the actual like Google image map, and then like drew little lines where the character would have gone, just so that I can think, okay, so what can they see while they're there? Because that's super important for like the immersion of a story as well. Is like, okay, so what are they experiencing while they're taking this journey? If the journey is a huge part of the actual storytelling itself, then how do they feel when they're doing it? Like, are they tired because it's really fucking far away? Or is it, are they getting a stone stuck in their shoe because that's what the terrain's like? So yeah, I think having those visual tools is incredibly helpful for storytelling, even if you don't include it in your book.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it could end up being like a throwaway line that just helps people get like you said, a stone in the shoe or something. But yeah, I think anything you can do to research the places that you're inspired by or where it takes place, I think all that is awesome. I was just looking to see, sometimes I'll do like little sketches on like a sticky note or something. Like the map, it just lives on one of these for like a month or something, and that becomes my like personal guide, kind of similar to the blueprint of like, this is where all the things generally are, and then I'll like make a cleaner one later, but I don't seem to have one on hand. I must have gotten rid of it.
That's okay.
Yeah,
I didn't prep you.
But yeah, that's often what I'll do is I'll just like grab a sticky note or like a piece of paper and just like draft. I think I kind of want it to look like this, and then I'll like, if I want the readers to have a like a nice version, I'll go and illustrate that later. I have not hit a point where I don't want that to happen. I almost did. Copper Skin, Oaken Lungs almost came out with no map. And then one of my beta readers was like, these individual places are all really well shown, but I don't understand how they all relate to each other. And I was like, I'm going to make a map, I guess.
Map guy makes a map.
Oh, no.
Must have been so awful for you. Before we wrap up for today, I'm going to give everyone the opportunity to ask any other questions that they have, and please put them in the chat. I can't read minds across oceans and things, so you have to actually type them and put them in there. before we do go, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you'd love to tell the listeners, watchers, lurkers about?
I think we've covered most of everything. I'll just kind of recap some of the stuff for anybody who might have wandered in.
Thanks.
I have a couple of books out right now, Digital Extremities and Animus Paradox. Those are a couple of cyberpunk books. The stuff that's coming out next year, early next year, Copper Skin, Oaken Lungs is my first fantasy book. It's kind of vaguely Latvian inspired by some music that I was listening to, and has kind of ended up taking on a life of its own, become its own thing, and is this neat, like, post-apocalyptic thing. I had someone describe it as Under the Dome meets Annihilation, which I was very pleased with. So yeah, that's been a really fun project, and that'll be out in February. ARCs are open until the end of tomorrow. So if you are watching this now, or if you are watching it back the next day, you can sign up for the ARC until October 10th, 2025. If it's any day later, I'm sorry.
Tough.
Yeah, it's one of those things. But it will be on sale for pre-order soon. The ebooks will be on sale just in general. Like, it'll be 40% off. So it'll be the pre-order will be a good time to grab a copy cheap.
Cool.
And an author's guide to setting design is on Kickstarter right now. That's up for another 13 days. I believe that means it'll be done on the afternoon of the 22nd of October.
Okay.
So feel free to just follow it if you aren't sure yet, if you want to wait a little bit more, or you can go ahead and back it. You can get the digital version. You can get the physical hardcover. The hardcover is full color. It's got 120 plus images in it. Not all of those images are full color. Some were originally black and white, but everything that was full color originally is full color in this.
Great.
It's got a whole bunch of stuff on world building if you're just interested in world building. If you would like to also make your own maps or plan out your worlds a little bit better, it's got a lot of different insights on that as well, where you can, learn about the projection methods that you might want to use, the scale, the like creating a legend, different stuff like that. It's not a how to draw book by any means, but it will kind of help you plan out and design better and more legible maps. And that, like I said, is going to be on Kickstarter until the 22nd, like middle of the day or something. Get in by the 21st. That's the last full day.
Okay. That's safe.
And yeah. And yeah, I mean, once that ends, we'll be working on it to get it ready to go. It's already very close. There's a couple of final things, last minute changes I want to do. And then, of course, it will take time to do all the formatting. But we're pretty close. Like, the book is just about done, ready to go. And it'll be available to pre-order. It's already available to pre-order on the Crafty Bookstore. There is, that's the US only at the moment. Indie bookstore I'm currently working with, and it'll be more widely available later on as I finalize some of the details, and you'll be able to get it, from your favorite ebook places, from wherever you get your hardcovers. That'll be coming out sometime early to mid next year. I don't have a date yet. But it'll be after Copper Skin, Oaken Lungs at some point.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the recap. I really appreciate it. I have put all of the links in the chat, and I'll amend the description of this episode and put them in there as well, just in case anyone's like, oh, I can't see the chat because this is a recording.
Yeah.
It's in the description.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you giving such an in-depth insight into your work, and especially this really freaking cool guide that you've created with some awesome people. I really hope that this is massively successful for you, because so much hard work has gone into it, and it's amazing. So
thank you. I appreciate it so much.
You're welcome. But yeah, so thank you again for joining me. And if you have watched this live, then thank you for joining us. If you're watching this as a recording, hello from the past. and we'll catch you next week. Well, I will. Adam won't. I mean, you might. You have a link, so you can join if you really wanted to.
Oh, I can just use that to join anytime? Good to know.
I think so. It might just be for this, though, so you might just be sat on your own. I need to check that. That's a safety issue. Anyway, I'll see you next week. You might see Adam. Thank you so much for joining us.